So homework 18, we are applying the quadratic formula. When we solve a quadratic equation, there's lots of ways to solve it. You could solve it by graphing and finding where it hits the x-intercept. We already solved it by factoring. Another way is using the quadratic formula. The nice thing about the quadratic formula is it works all of the time, where factoring doesn't always work. If you tried to factor this one, it'd never work out. So the quadratic formula says, if I have the wrong pen, writing these. Now it should be the right pen. If I have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, my quadratic equation in standard form, the coefficients are the a, b, and the c, and that x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. No, I don't expect you to memorize it, although it probably doesn't hurt to have it memorized, but like I said, you can use your notes if you forget it when you're doing your assessment, so you can always look it up on your homework page. So, if I look at my quadratic equation and I have 5x squared plus 9x plus 2, the a value is the 5, which is the coefficient of my x squared, the b value is the 9, and the c value is the 2. So plugging into my quadratic equation, I have minus the b value, which is 9. I'm going to put it in parentheses just because it looks good. Plus or minus the square root of the b value, which is 9 squared, minus 4 times the a value, which is 5, times the c value, which is 2, over 2 times the a value, which is 5. So anytime I substitute in for a variable, I put it in parentheses just to separate it from all the other stuff that's in there, and then I can go ahead and simplify from there. So here, if I just have minus my 9, obviously that's going to be negative 9. Plus or minus, I've got to simplify all of this mess. 9 squared, 9 times 9 would be 81. Minus 4 times 5 times 2 looks like negative 40. If I multiplied that right, 81 minus 40 then gives me 41. And then on the bottom we have 2 times 5, which is 10. Now unfortunately on the ALEKS program they don't give you the option of plus or minus. They want to point out that it's really 2 separate answers. So they make you put it in twice. You're going to have to put in negative 9 plus the square root of 41 over 10. And negative 9 minus the square root of 41 over 10. Be careful when you put it in that the negative goes on top the fraction with the 9. It's not out in front of the fraction. And that the fraction is over the whole entire thing, not just underneath the square root. So what I would do when I type it in is hit the fraction option first, type the bottom in, then tab, type the top in. I also highlight that, Control C copies, Control V pastes, and then I just have to change the sign and I don't have to type the whole thing in. So that's what that looks like. And I type that in. If I move down there to number 2 then. Again, I'm going to have minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And so in this one, my a value is going to be 9. My b value is negative 5. And my c value is negative 1. So plugging that in, I'm going to have minus from the formula, and in my parentheses, negative 5. Minus a negative 5, which we'll simplify in a minute. Plus or minus the square root of negative 5 squared minus 4 times the a value, which is 9, times the c value, which is negative 1. all over 2 times the a value of 9. So simplifying that, if I have minus a negative 5, going to change to a positive, right? That always should end up being the opposite of whatever the b value is, because that's what minus b means. So 5 plus or minus negative 5 squared would be 25, right? When I square a negative, it becomes positive. Negative 4 times 9 times negative 1, again, that's going to be positive 36 then. And so if I take 25 plus 36, I would get 61. And if you're using your calculator, you might as well punch the whole thing in at one time. Over my denominator, 2 times 9, which is 18. So I have 5 plus the square root of 61 all over 18, and 5 minus the square root of 61 all over 18. Now on some of these you are going to be able to simplify further. If you would have had the square root of 63, you could have factored it into 9 times 7 and made it 3 square root of 7. And sometimes you can even reduce it. But the directions on these ones do not say you have to simplify. So if I would put it in there with the square root of 63, if that were the answer, it's still going to be correct. It's going to say it's correct. However, you could have simplified it. So it's up to you if you want to simplify it or not. It's good practice, but you don't have to do it. Third one here. My a value is going to be 3, my b value is also 3, and my c value is negative 7. So if I plug those into the quadratic formula, what would I have?
Negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 7 all over 2 times 3.
So again, I really don't need the parentheses around the 3, but just for sake of properness, I have minus the 3, so we can just write that as negative 3. 3 squared would be 9. Negative 4 times 3 times negative 7.
84.
Positive 84. 9 plus 84 then would be 93 over, or 2 times 3, which is 6. And again, I don't think I can simplify the square root of 93. So we would have negative 3 plus the square root of 93 all over 6, and negative 3 minus the square root of 93 all over 6. So when you're on the ALEX program, even on the assessment, it's going to tell you use the quadratic formula. So if it says that, you know it's not going to factor. Don't even waste your time.